Being able to analyze malware is a hugely valuable skill to have in your security team. Now, not everybody has it, and that's fine, but being able to do it really helps give you an edge in understanding whether or not something is important or a priority and it needs to be taken care of immediately, or if it's just commodity malware, or even if something is malware at all. In this video, I'm going to be showing you the tool that I use in my day-to-day job in order to expeditiously analyze malware and inform my decision making on whether or not I need to take action or not. Coming up. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing well. So, the tool that I'm looking at today is called Intezer. Now, I use this tool regularly in my day-to-day job, and when Intezer reached out to me in order to collaborate and do a video together, I was more than willing to agree to it because I do stand by the product and I do use it personally. So, special shout out and thanks to Intezer for sponsoring this video. Now, I want to point out that you can register for free at intezer.com for an account, and that account gets you the capability to execute and analyze 50 binaries or files a month, which I've been using Intezer for probably 4 months at this point, and I have not hit that threshold of 50 per month yet. And I'm at a mid-sized organization, so it's definitely value add and definitely allows you to try it out with zero investment and actually make it part of your toolbox. So when you go to Intezer and you log into the Analyze, you'll be brought to this screen right here. Now, this is the main screen that you log into. I'm going to just kind of give you a little bit of a tour around here. Right here is where you upload the artifacts or the files that you have, and I'll do a demo in a minute showing you exactly what that looks like. But this is where I spend a lot of my time, or where I begin my journey a lot of the time. They also allow you to do hash analysis if you have some type of artifact on your network and you want to just do a quick scan based on the hash. They have this beta feature where you can analyze a URL. So say you get some type of weird URL in an email. You can click it and quickly drop it in here and see what it is. In fact, this is beta. I haven't used this, so we'll give it a shot in this video and see what it does. You can search by family. We talk about different threat actors, right? Like Lazarus Group or APT41 or Revil, whatever it is, right? So if you're talking about specific families or malware families, also like Redline Stealer, which is really popular right now, or WannaCry, you can go ahead and throw it in here, and it comes up, and they do all sorts of analysis. So it's kind of like having like in addition to them doing malware analysis, which we'll look at, they have this like threat intelligence center, almost like I don't want to call it a library, but it is resources that can show you more information, right? Like here's some synonyms from WannaCry. Here's some sites if you'd like to go get more information. I do want to point out it's very useful, or it can be useful. Like say you find something on your network and you do the malware analysis, right? And it turns out to be really gnarly. And you need to put together well, obviously you're going to triage it, right, and contain it. But if you need to put together some type of briefing for management or for the CISO or for, the executives, the board, whatever, you can leverage these resources here to quickly put together an informed threat briefing. So that's really nice. Also, they have the ability to track the threat. So you get email notifications when things come up about that particular threat. So great feature, great function. All right, so going back to the home here, if you scroll down, you can see they have some trending analysis, different samples coming in. So this kind of gives you a little bit of a informed opinion on what other consumers of the Intezer platform are submitting for malware analysis, right? So you could see LokiBot. I haven't heard LokiBot in a while. It looks like LokiBot's kind of coming back into vogue. Spider, I'm not familiar with. So you kind of get the idea. They do have an API integration, which is pretty cool. I have played around with it a little bit using this Python SDK that they've got set up. The real use case here of hooking in with the APIs is if you have a platform, like let's say you have an EDR platform like Microsoft Defender for Endpoint or Cisco Secure Endpoint, or one of these third parties, right? Or you have a SIM like Splunk or Graylog or something like that, and you can hook in API calls. So if an artifact comes in, you can just click a button within that tooling and have it push to Intezer. You don't have to log into the front end and do all that work, and then manually copy and paste it into your incident response ticketing system or whatever. Like, you can use the API to fully integrate and get more of that kind of SOAR capability, which is really cool and really nice. Again, my program is not as mature as a program that could take advantage of API integration, so I haven't done this in my environment, but it is a great feature, especially if you have dedicated, detection engineers and security operation analysts that have time to improve the tooling in the environments. So one of the other interesting things about Intezer, it keeps kind of a trending. So like if I put a couple pieces of malware in today and then a couple pieces of malware in next week, next month, 6 months from now, and I can start to see trend data like, oh crap, like this Loki is showing up regularly, or this Redline stealer is showing up regularly. Like I'm either being targeted or there's a bigger issue here that I need to understand. So that kind of informed knowledge sharing is another really cool thing. So we're just going to take our malware or unknown binary and drag and drop it right on here. Now, the cool thing is that you could do this yourself if you had the skills to do malware analysis, but it is time consuming, and you can miss stuff, and it's not always 100%, right? But you can see here with Intezer, it actually turns it around pretty quickly. You can see I've analyzed it, and now we have information, and you can see that it's identified it as the malware family Redline Stealer. So if you didn't know what Redline Stealer was, you can now say, okay, like it's identified it. It's definitely malicious, so that doesn't feel good. And you can see it's a little crunched in because I've got the resolution turned down so you guys can see it nicely. But the results that it gives you within a couple seconds is the following. You can see that it's the original file. They do execute it in a dynamic environment, so like a detonation chamber or a sandbox, if you will. So this is dynamic input or dynamic output analysis on what it's doing. You could see it identified the executable as malicious, and then it looks like this is also the executables, and then this executable called regasm.exe, which is also identified as part of Redline Stealer. So you get a little bit of a nice dynamic analysis. If the malware were to spawn off a bunch of other processes, you could then, or files, you could go look for those as well as artifacts. One thing I want to point out here is this idea of genes, and the way that Intezer works is, instead of, yes, it looks at some of the dynamic analysis and it looks at some of the static analysis. But the interesting thing with Intezer is that they have so much malware already, kind of a corpus of malware, that they break it down into chunks of code and compare those chunks of code, which they call genes, to the executable that you're putting in there for analysis. So basically, what does that mean? Bad guys will reuse code. Maybe they change the way the ransomware note looks, or maybe they want to introduce additional functionality. Like, let's say you've got a ransomware thing, but you're also going to start doing data exfiltration as well. Well, they're not going to write data exfiltration most likely from scratch. They'll just take a data exfiltration module that they can buy off the dark web or they've developed previously and plug it into their new executable, and there you go. Well, when you look at it from this kind of genes perspective, you'll see the the ransomware stuff, and you'll see this data exfiltration. So that's how they use this idea of genes to identify malicious stuff, which is brilliant, because if it's a new piece of malware that hasn't really been seen before, not in this case, this is Redline, but if it's a new piece of malware, but it's cobbled together of other pieces, something like Intezer can actually tell that about it because of what its composition is, right? You can't change your DNA. So some of the other results that the product gives you is TTPs, right? This is mapped to the MITRE ATT&CK framework. And you could see it's got some defense evasion capabilities in here. It's pulling credentials, which is really what Redline does is it steals creds, it steals, crypto wallet data, it steals Discord credentials, etc. Um, so let's look at it. It calls out the severity of these concerns. Looks like it did a process injection to the reg-ASM executable multiple times. Normally process injection isn't something that healthy software is going to be doing. It accessed credential storage registry keys, so it's up in the registry, checking that stuff. Here's another interesting one. It passed. I can't expand this, but it passed. Um, or it used guard pages. So I'm not 100% sure what guard pages is, but a lot of times malware authors will know that people like us are doing analysis on it. So the malware will look first to see, like, am I in a VM, or are there certain programs like Procmon running right now that if I see it, it means that, because normal end users aren't going to run that. So if I see it, it means that a security analyst is looking at me and I should shut down and not execute my full payload, right? Again, if you're doing the analysis yourself and you detonate it dynamically and some of these controls are in place, you may not see the full scope of what the malware is because it's designed for anti-analysis. That's another cool thing about using genes, right? There are indicators of compromise. You could see it pulled out this IP address right away, so we can copy and paste that into a incident response ticket, or copy and paste it directly into our SIM and see if any other endpoints in our environment are talking to this C2, see if anything has talked in the past to it. We've got, the file IOC, obviously it's just the SHA, so we could look for that as well. If there was more here, they do offer the ability to download a CSV so you can then ingest it into a better tool, or it's easier to ingest instead of copy paste, right? Another interesting thing, we've got the screenshots. Nothing too interesting going on with Redline Info Stealer here, but the screenshots do help. We have the process tree. So it's a nice tool. Okay. Click on the actual, Redline Stealer right here in the process execution. You could see it loads different information here, so you can kind of dig into it a little bit more. Here's the Redline Stealer, and they have these strings, which is human readable elements in the malware. And again, it won't look this bad for you. I have my resolution turned way down so you guys can see this as well. But if we go back to the Threat Thursday and we look at, the actual write-up on the malware itself, someone went through all the trouble of analyzing this malware, and you can see some of the things that it looks for, right? Like, oh, where's some of the stuff it looks for? Right, here it is, right? It's looking for your Chrome browser directories, which contain credentials and cookies, Firefox, your crypto wallet. So we could actually, further dig in and say wallet. Like, you see right there how it's like wallet, and then in this threat write-up wallet. So, I mean, if you wanted to confirm, or you wanted to get more indicative of what it is, you can do this kind of search on the strings, which is really quite useful. A lot of times it'll come up with the malware family. Occasionally it comes up generic, maybe because they don't have enough data in the corpus to confidently make that assessment. But if it does, you can then go one step further and kind of use these strings and look at it to understand. Also, as I mentioned before, with the capabilities, you get to see all the way it works in the framework. Again, my resolutions turned way down, so it's really difficult to see. So some related samples. If you want, you can see related samples that other people have submitted, and pull those down and analyze them. If you're more of a malware analyst, I really feel like this tool is better, or more focused, and serves kind of an incident response or a security operations analyst much better. But if you are a malware analyst, you can definitely take advantage of this as well. I've told you about the IOCs and the TTPs. Oh, another great thing. So everybody knows VirusTotal. Everybody uses VirusTotal. They have a built-in VirusTotal too. Like as if this big red sign right here says malicious wasn't enough for you. You can go click on this and it just takes you to VirusTotal right away. And you can see that this is definitely malicious. And one of the really cool things that I think is worth mentioning is we know based on the analysis that this is redline stealer, right? This is exactly this piece of malware based on the genes and everything. Whereas VirusTotal isn't going to tell you what kind of malware it is specifically, right? It just says Trojan here, it says malicious high confidence. Like it could be anything. It could be ransomware. It could be a keylogger. It could, you know what I mean? So malware generic. So VirusTotal is almost like Boolean, like yes or no, it's bad or it's not bad. Whereas I like Intezer because it tells you it's bad and it's redline stealer, which you can then kind of dig into and learn a little bit more about. There is a way to they have like information on it on redline on not redline stealer but on the malware family itself. Let's see if I can find it. I think if you go to the home section and search, yeah, and you can see again, I think I mentioned this earlier, but like you can track this threat because now you've seen it in your environment, and you can get some information here if you need to debrief your team, your boss, management, whatever. And there's a bunch of they link to a bunch of stories, and they have all these samples and stuff. So it's a really nice, comprehensive package that they've put together, and in obviously dumping, just dragging and dropping whatever you want here to understand if it's malicious or not, and then what family is it, and what things you should be looking for on the network. So that's going to do it for Intezer Analyze. I hope you can see why I use this particular tool and how you might be able to use it in your environment. Again, I really think it's targeted for incident response, security operations analysts. For me, I have a small team, so having something like this helps me move expeditiously and be able to turn things around instead of getting bogged down and actually doing malware analysis and not being able to really focus on all of the other responsibilities I have within the information security office. So that's going to do it. If you're interested in checking out Intezer, I will put a link in the description below. Like I said, you can sign up and use it for free. There's no cost associated with it. And I'm pretty sure last I checked, you can get 50 free malware analysis, or you can analyze 50 files a month, and they reset that every month. So it's a nice little service. At a minimum, sign up, check it out, bookmark it, and then when you do have a need for doing some malware detonation or understanding quickly how bad is this, you'll have that access right at your fingertips. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this week. I hope you got some value out of it. If you did, check out the other videos on the channel. I appreciate it, and we will see you in the next one. Cheers.